everybody, welcome to the Black Sheep Props channel. I'm Steve and I'm here to teach you the tips, tools, techniques, and materials for building your very own super cool EVA foam props. If you're coming back to join us again, thanks. Glad you're digging us. Welcome back. If you're brand new to the channel, thank you for checking us out. I think you're going to love this. You're going to have a good time. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into it. We'd like to introduce you to Black Sheep Props' newest member of the family, the Retro Ray Gun. That's right, look at this bad boy. This looks like something out of a 1950s science fiction movie. Got some really cool details on here. We've got some oxidized red paint, has some rust appearing in some spots. We've got the usual weathered metal parts on the ray gun. We're going to use some EVA foam dowels on here to make the coils. Real cool details up here with the front coil section. This is going to be a fun build. You're going to love this. So, if you want your very own super cool retro ray gun, rusty retro ray gun, hang out with us. We're going to go step by step through how to make it so that you get the props you deserve. So, if you're ready to hit it, let's make something. A lot of circles, a lot of simple cuts. This is not a difficult build. As we go along, you'll see step by step that you can do this. It's not tough. So, you can do this just like you've done every other build we've done. Gonna be awesome. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to build these coils. We're going to build the whole front end of the ray gun first. So we're going to start with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 8 pieces that are going to make up this coil. Very simple circle cuts. And it's very simple when you're cutting a circle if you keep your knife standing straight up in the air. So you're just using the very tip of the point. You just hold the knife in one spot and you move the foam. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a light spray mount. Very simple. And again, we don't want to use a lot, but we're going to spray these 2 pieces of foam together. So we literally want to go off to the side and just very light spritz. And now we're going to go right through both pieces of foam at one time. And voila. There you go. Now look at that. Since it was a very light layer of spray mount, they didn't stick together. On a piece like this, there's going to be a lot of different thicknesses of foam that you're going to use. Obviously, the thinnest foam we're using is for the larger part of the coils, which is what we just cut out. And we're going to use the thinnest foam, a 2mm foam. The spacers in between the coils are a thicker foam, so we're probably going to go to probably 6mm is probably good enough for the thicker spaces on the inside. And then when we get to these 2 truncated cones, we're going to use something on the thinner side for those also. Maybe 4mm. Spray adhesive, and we're going to stick them together, and we're going to cut out 1 circle, but because they're stacked up, we'll get 3 out of it. And when you're standing the X-Acto knife straight up in the air, it's the smallest part of the blade that's going through there, so you're not going to get a lot of drag on the knife. Look at that, perfect. Okay, now what we've done is we've lightly spray mounted our 3 pieces of foam. We've attached them together. We're going to use the bandsaw because that stays at a 90-degree angle, and that's off camera, so we'll be right back. Okay, here we go. Now look at that. Perfect circle. Perfectly straight edge all the way around, no bevel cut. And then we just pull it apart. There we go. So there are our 4 pieces of foam that we're going to use for the spacers in between the coils. Okay, now we're going to take our 2 truncated cones, which are going to make up the 2 cones of our barrel. Trace the templates onto our foam. Just going to use our metal edge, line up just inside our Sharpie line. Look at that, beautiful. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to heat curve our 2 pieces for our barrel. So we're going to get our heat gun going. We're lightly Remember to stay away from your fingers. And then we take this and we roll it up just like that. We hold it for a minute or two as it cools off. Natural curve. Now when we go to stick these two together, it's not going to fight against us. We're going to do the same thing with this piece. We're going to get our contact cement out. Okay, now both of those sides are glued. Now we're going to come to this side. All four of our sides are contact cemented. We're going to take our piece that's dry. We're going to line up our edge just like that. Look at that, beautiful. Right on the seam, and it holds together because it's contact cement. Carefully lining up the seam just like that. And now it's all together. Perfectly, right on the seam. We've got our two barrels, and if you notice, they're not perfectly round, but that's okay. Once the contact cement perfectly sets, then we will heat them up a little bit so that they go back to a perfectly round shape. And then what we're going to do is we're going to feed one into the other one like so to create our barrel. Okay, now we have all of our pieces lined up for our coil. When we're sticking the first one down, we don't want it off-centered, because then when you're looking at the side of the gun, they're going to look like they're going up and down. So we have to make sure that we line them up centered so that every one is glued directly in the center of the other one. So we'll show you how to do that next. Okay, now here's a simple way to line these up. We have our circle template. We're going to find the circle template that fits it, which is pretty much that one. We're just going to make a little dot. All right, and we're going to take our next one. We're going to go to little dot at each crosshair, so we know that is the center. There you go, look at that. Now that we have our silver dots around the edge, and we used our plastic triangle and we just struck a line. Okay, so we are going to use super glue for these, like so. We're going to take a spare piece of foam. That way it puts down a very nice smooth layer, just like so. Now we push it down. Perfectly centered. We've lined our circles up, we've attached them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stack them up like Oreos. And boom. So we're going to attach these all together, and we're going to move on to the barrel. Okay, now we're going to take our super glue. We're going to put some around the inside here, not too heavy. Okay, line it up as close as we possibly can, just like that. And it slides a little bit, which is good. You want to slide it. There we go. We look lined up all the way around, and we're going to hold it down. See, that's why it's good sometimes to use super glue, because when you put the super glue down, it doesn't instantly bond. You can slide it a little bit until it decides to grab, and then pow. Once it decides to grab, it's down for good. Okay, look at that. There is our set of coils. Actually, I probably should have done this before I glued them, but it'll be okay as long as we don't cook it. We want to heat seal our foam. Stay away from your fingers. I can see the foam changing. Very nice, very nice. Lightly heat sealed our coils, and if you noticed, look at that. They turn back into perfect circles because the foam loosens up and the glue does its thing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to glue this piece of the barrel into that piece, and then we're going to glue the two barrels to the end of there, and we are close to having our coils and our barrel. Take our extra piece of foam, we're going to smooth out the super glue all across the edge like that, and there we know it's all. We're going to line up our two seams, and we're going to, so now what we're going to do next is we're going to attach the two barrels to the coils. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use the same technique that we used when we centered the coil pieces together. Just hold it over. We're going to make a dot, a dot, a dot, and a dot. Take our triangle. We're going to strike a line, dot on that side, dot on that side. When we line our seam up and our crosshairs, boom, it's going to be right in the center. Take our super glue. Again, you notice we're using a lot of super glue on this one because we've got some really light parts. We'll come over here and we will line up our marks. There, we've got them lined up there and there and there. Look at that, beautiful. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make this little piece that's going to cap the end of our barrel. So now we know this is the size that we want to use for cutting our cap that we're going to cap this off with. Okay, there's our circle. And there we go. Look at that. And that fits perfectly. Wow, very nice. There's our coils on our gun and our barrel. There is our new coils and our barrel. Okay, we're just rounding the edge off. Nice rounded edge on the barrel. Very nice. Slight detail. Okay, so now we're going to do these 4 little fins that go around the barrel. Lightly stick 4 pieces of foam together with a spray mount. Okay, so there's 4 pieces lightly stuck together. We transferred our template over. Now we're going to do the cut 1 time and we'll have 4 pieces. Use our Kershaw sharpener. Make sure we keep our knife at a 90-degree angle. We're going to saw right through, saw through, and slide through, and look at that. Beautiful 90-degree cut. Holy smokes, is that smooth. Zip like that, and look at that. 2, 3, 4, all identical. Mark where our 4 spines go. So then what we can do is we can use our silver marks that we had right there, there, and there. We're going to take our triangle and line it up there like that. There's 1. 1, 2, 3, and our seam is 4. Okay, so we're going to take our super glue, we're going to put a bead along the bottom, like so. And we're going to line up on our crease. Come around, we're going to line up right on our silver line. And it's down. Very nice. Look at that. Very cool. The end is capped off. There's our coils, our barrel, and our fins on our barrel. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to build this front body of the ray gun. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our truncated cone template, we're going to use it to heat and curl up, and it's going to make our body part. We have our piece to cap off the back end. After we stick the truncated cone, we'll measure for the shape for the front cap, and then we'll use this piece to make 2 copies of the side detail. Okay, now the foam we're going to use for this front piece, we want it to be a little more dense, a little thicker, so we're going to go with the 6mm foam for that. We're going to trace our template with our silver Sharpie. Tip our knife at a slight angle just to get a little bevel on the bottom. We're going to follow nice and careful right on the inside of our Sharpie line, and there we go. Look at that. It's got a nice little bevel on this side. Nice and careful. Follow right around the inside of our Sharpie line. Now, when we roll up our truncated cone and we stick it, the bottom is going to have a flat edge so that it sits flat. We're going to start just inside our Sharpie line. We're going to spin our foam. There we go. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to get out our heat gun and we're going to heat shape our truncated cone. Now what we're going to do is we're going to roll. We're going to let it cool. And there you go. We're just going to run a thin layer across the edge. And we're going to let that sit for 5 minutes. Okay, now we're going to stick our truncated cone together. We're going to line up our edge very carefully, just like that. Pow, look at that. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give this a little bit of time, and then we're going to connect our cap on the bottom. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to use our circle template. We're going to find out exactly which circle would fit our end tightly. So we know now which of our circle templates we're going to use for our top cap. And there you go. Beautiful. Now we have our bottom cap, our body, and our top cap. Perfect. Putting a light coat, and now we're going to come just a little bit around the inside of the whole piece. When those dry, we'll stick them together. We're going to line up one edge of our piece like that, right on the edge. We're going to follow the edge around just like that, very carefully. And we got that. See how the foam bends? You can bend it, you can force it into place. Look at that. Sweet. That is tight. Just enough to get it wet. There we go. Now we're going to... Okay, we've waited 5 minutes. Line up the edge, just like that. Just go around, and remember, foam is a little bit flexible, so you can bend it to perfectly fit. Even if your cut has not been perfect, you can make it perfect by bending your foam. Super cool. All right, there we go. We've got a central area. Notice how they both have a shine. They're wet. Give it 5 minutes, those will dry, and then contact. Okay, we've waited 5 minutes. Now we're going to stick our pieces together. Now remember, we have a seam on this piece, so we know it's the bottom. So what we want to do is we want to come in and we want to line those two up, just like that. Notice how they're lined up. And we want to come in and we want to stick that in as close to the center as we can, and look at that. That looks perfectly centered. Super cool. Simple steps. Every step has been simple, but you just have to pay a little attention to detail. You have to make sure you're marking, taking the extra time to mark all your marks so that when you line stuff up, it lines up centered and it looks right. Because something like this, if all these were off a little bit, it would look wobbly. But that's tight. A little extra time planning and measuring, and all the rest of it is simple. Okay, that concludes our episode tonight. We completed the first half of our retro ray gun. We've got the front part of the body, we've got the coils, and we've got the barrel. Next week, we're going to jump into the back portion of the body, the handle, and we're going to get into how cool EVA foam dowels are for the coils. So, that concludes making an EVA foam ray gun part 1. Hope you liked it. If you did, give us a like, share it with a friend, and better yet, subscribe to this channel, and together we're going to continue going step by step through a lot more super cool builds so that you get the props you deserve. Thanks for coming. See you next time.